Japan's energy self-sufficiency is quite low, meaning it relies heavily on other countries for its energy needs. Japan has few natural resources like oil, coal, or natural gas, so it imports most of its energy. Only a small percentage of its energy comes from domestic sources like hydropower, solar, wind, and nuclear power. This makes Japan vulnerable to changes in global energy prices and supply issues. To improve energy security, Japan is trying to use more renewable energy and find ways to be more energy efficient. As of recent data, Japan's energy mix is made up of the following approximate percentages. 1. Liquefied natural gas, only about 36 to 38%. 2. Coal, around 31 to 33%. 3. Nuclear, roughly 6 to 7%. 4. Oil, about 6 to 8%. 5. Renewable energy, about 22-24% in total, with breakdowns like hydropower, about 8 to 9%. Solar power, around 7 to 8%. Wind power, around 1 to 2%. Biomass, around 4 to 5%. Geothermal, less than 1%. These numbers can vary slightly from year to year depending on policies, energy imports, and seasonal factors. Biomass power generation is a way of creating energy by burning organic materials. These materials can include things like wood, agricultural waste, or even certain types of garbage. When these materials are burned, they release energy in the form of heat, which is then used to produce electricity. One of the advantages of biomass power is that it uses materials that might otherwise go to waste. Additionally, while burning biomass does release carbon dioxide, it's considered more environmentally friendly than fossil fuels because the plants used in biomass absorb carbon dioxide while growing. This creates a cycle where the amount of carbon released is balanced by the amount absorbed during the plant's life. In Japan, biomass power is part of the push for renewable energy to reduce reliance on imported fossil fuels. As of now, Japan operates only a few of its nuclear power plants. After the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011, all of Japan's nuclear reactors were gradually shut down for safety inspections and upgrades. Since then, the government has been cautious about restarting them. Currently, out of the 33 operable reactors, only about 10 have been restarted. These are mainly in areas where local governments and residents have agreed to the restart after meeting strict safety standards. The rest of the reactors remain offline, either in the process of being decommissioned or awaiting approval to restart. The future of nuclear power in Japan is a topic of debate, balancing energy needs, safety concerns, and public opinion. While the government sees nuclear power as important for energy security and reducing carbon emissions, there is still strong public concern about safety. Geothermal power in Japan has great potential because the country is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an area with a lot of volcanic activity. This gives Japan access to underground heat sources, which are ideal for geothermal energy. Current status: Japan has some geothermal power plants, but they only account for about 0.3% of the country's total energy production. This is quite low, especially considering Japan's potential. Most of Japan's geothermal resources are located in areas where there are hot springs, onsen, which are popular tourist attractions. This has made it challenging to develop geothermal plants because of concerns about the impact on these hot springs. Future outlook: the Japanese government sees geothermal energy as a valuable part of its renewable energy strategy. There are plans to develop more geothermal plants, especially smaller ones, that can coexist with hot springs. Advances in technology and careful planning might allow for an increase in geothermal energy production without harming the onsen industry. However, the growth of geothermal energy is expected to be slow due to the technical challenges, high initial costs, and the need to balance development with the preservation of natural and cultural sites. In summary, while Japan has significant potential for geothermal energy, its current use is limited, and future growth will depend on overcoming various challenges. Japanese people's views on nuclear power are mixed and have evolved significantly, especially after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011. Here's a general overview. Before 2011, support for nuclear power. Before the Fukushima disaster, many people in Japan supported nuclear power as a reliable and relatively cheap energy source. Japan, being a country with few natural resources, saw nuclear power as essential for energy security. After the 2011 disaster, increased opposition, the Fukushima disaster caused a significant shift in public opinion. Many people became strongly opposed to nuclear power due to concerns about safety and the long-term impact of nuclear accidents. The disaster raised fears about radiation, environmental damage, and the safety of living near nuclear plants. Public protests. There were large-scale protests and movements against the restart of nuclear plants. Many communities expressed strong opposition to having nuclear facilities in their areas. Trust in government and companies. Trust in the government and energy companies also declined, as many people felt that safety concerns had been overlooked or not fully addressed before the disaster. Current views, mixed opinions. Today, opinions are divided. Some people believe that nuclear power is still necessary for Japan's energy needs, especially to reduce carbon emissions and reliance on imported fossil fuels. They argue that with improved safety measures, nuclear power can be managed responsibly. Ongoing concerns. On the other hand, a significant portion of the population remains cautious or opposed to nuclear power. Safety concerns, especially about potential earthquakes and tsunamis, continue to influence public opinion. Regional differences. Attitudes can also vary by region. Areas that were directly affected by the Fukushima disaster tend to have stronger opposition to nuclear power, while other regions might be more supportive if they are not directly impacted. Current situation. Solar power has become really important in Japan, especially after the big earthquake and nuclear disaster in 2011. The government started programs to encourage people to use solar energy. Because of this, growth in solar power. Solar energy now provides about 7 to 8% of Japan's electricity, making it one of the biggest sources of clean energy. Solar panels everywhere. You can see solar panels on many rooftops and in large fields. Some places like Kyushu are especially good for solar power because they get a lot of sunshine. Challenges. Limited space. Japan is a small country with lots of mountains, so it's hard to find flat land for big solar farms. Sometimes people worry that putting up solar panels might harm nature or take away green spaces. No sun, no power. Solar panels only make electricity when the sun is shining. This means they can't generate power at night or on cloudy days, which can be tricky when people still need electricity. Too much power. Sometimes solar panels make more electricity than the grid, the system that delivers electricity, can handle. This can cause problems in some areas, especially when the sun is shining brightly and lots of people are using solar energy at the same time. High costs. Even though solar panels are getting cheaper, they can still be expensive to install. Also, the government is offering less money now for the electricity people sell from their solar panels, which makes it less attractive for new projects. More solar power. Even with the challenges, solar power is expected to keep growing in Japan. The government wants to use more clean energy, and solar will be a big part of that plan. Better technology. Scientists and engineers are working on making solar panels better and creating batteries that can store solar energy for later use. This would help solve the problem of not having power when the sun isn't shining. Government help. The government will likely keep helping people use solar energy, but they may focus more on how to fit solar power into the grid better and make it more dependable. Community solar. Um, there could be more projects where people in a neighborhood share a big solar panel setup. This would help more people use solar power, even if they don't have space for their own panels. In short, solar power is very important in Japan and will keep growing, but there are some problems that need to be solved to make sure it works well for everyone.